In the next portion of the RHONDOS Rendezvous, we're going to be hearing from two customers, both of which are examples of customers who began their Power Connect journey in SAP performance and business process, but are now in the process of expanding to the use cases that Patrick just talked about. Our first presenter is going to be James Appleyard, Global SAP Development Manager at Interpublic Group. And we'll follow him with Greg Rothy, SAP Basis Administration at New Skin Enterprises. James, please take it away.
Hi, Shelley. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
All right, fantastic. Hello, everybody. Thanks for this opportunity to present today. I think Stephen's 3M presentation was great, and I think they've been using the tool for a while now, and I think that gets the creative juices flowing a little bit. We're just starting out maybe on the journey a little bit earlier. We activated the Power Connect extractors in June this year, and I'm going to kind of talk about what we've learned so far and what a cool dashboard we've created. We'll start with who is IPG, the company that I work for, talk a little bit about our SAP environment, but then kind of jump more into why we're using Power Connect, why we chose to use it, how we're using it, and then go to the final piece, which is an out-of-the-box dashboard that we've worked with RHONDOS to kind of take it to meet more of our requirements around the usability. All right. So who is IPG? So IPG is one of the world's largest advertising and marketing agencies. We have many agencies and networks within the IPG umbrella. It's a holding company, IPG. So all of the companies that are part of the IPG family keep their own brand and identity, and that's who they work with. Those are the companies that work with the clients. We're based, headquartered from a corporate perspective in New York City. I live in Brooklyn now. I'm originally from the UK, came to the US in 2004. Next slide. So this just shows the user footprint, or the offices and agency footprints around the world. And this kind of plays into the use case we had, where we get calls from users in different locations around the world, and they're having primarily perhaps performance issues, and we need to help troubleshoot those issues. So that's where one of the dashboards came in very useful for us. Next slide. So these are the agencies within the IPG family that work with the clients directly, either individually or together to provide the best solutions, whether it's traditional advertising, whether print or media, or whether it's obviously the growing spaces around digital, social media, everything like that. So they cover all of the advertising and even marketing and event marketing, sports marketing, all of those different areas. Okay, next slide. This is one. We have two main templates that actually we've enabled Splunk for. We have some other smaller regional legacy templates, but this is our biggest SAP template. It's running on Business Suite on HANA, and project started around when I came over here, actually back in 2004. And over the years, we've been increasing the user footprint year on year on year, and it still continues as we either move people from legacy environments, or maybe we've acquired a new location that needs to be deployed. So the footprint keeps growing. We're over 30,000 users now, and this presents challenges because as the system keeps growing, the data keeps growing. You need to keep monitoring and keep your eye on the health of the system. Okay, next slide. Right, so a couple of years back, we started talking about DevOps within our organization, and looking at how we could, first of all, understanding what DevOps was and how we could implement it. And we kind of broke it into the different areas of the whole infinite loop, whether it was how we track changes or how we migrate changes, or how we monitor the health of the system. So we started looking at all our tool chains, and we started looking at Jira for backlog management, or for Kanban and Sprint. We implemented a tool called Active Control for SAP transport migration automation, and so, and there's a piece missing on the left. Under the left, it's supposed to say, there you go, deliver new things to me. The business is always asking for things, but at the same time, they don't want us to break the system. So it was all about how do we create fast change, pace of change with quality, while making sure we don't introduce risk to the system. So one of the tools we saw and looked at was RHONDOS Power Connect. So and that seemed to provide powerful monitoring capabilities for us. Next slide. Okay. So just kind of to play with the theme of what's going on within the organization, just in the SAP world alone, we have, and I'm sure you're all feeling this, we have lots of different innovation projects, as well as the agencies are continuously asking for changes. We have legal localization, electronic invoicing. We're now using cloud platform for integration and APIs. We're looking at chatbot integration, and obviously cybersecurity is a big piece of it. So all of those constant influencing factors from the outside demand us to make changes in the system continuously, and we really need to be able to monitor the system tightly, so that we ensure it's stable and reduce risk, and make sure the system's performing and the health is good. Okay, next slide. So this kind of, again, it talks to the point of why Power Connect. So, we're just starting out on this, but everybody on the call is pretty much an SAP person. All of the data you need to analyze problems is in the SAP system, and we knew that, but typically it's managed by an authorizations group, or it's managed by a basis group, or maybe it's managed by the ABAP group, and they all have their own distinct transactions, and then we have authorizations to lock them. And it's just hard to get that data and to be able to analyze it in an effective manner. So that was where we saw the real power of this tool, because what it's enabled us to do is to extract that data and pull together the different groups to look at use cases and to look at what's going on in their area. Because, for example, we published the Early Watch report. Certain people look at it, but there's not too much you can do about it without asking questions, etc. So this enabled us to put the data into people's hands in a way that they can analyze it and ask questions. Okay, so if you go to the next slide. So again, in Stevens, he'd created some really cool and powerful dashboards. This covers kind of the out of the box concept, as well as the new dashboard we've created. But as soon as we turned it on, we immediately saw, here you can see on the left hand side, it's authentication activity to the system and system logs. And it was like, what's that all about? So you immediately see that would have been hidden inside SM21. Probably nobody would have seen it. We saw this, we looked into the logs, we found it was a third-party tool that logged in every Monday to do a scan, and we were able to reach out to the vendor. You can think from another perspective. For me, dumps. I used to download the dump data and try and track it in Excel. Now I have all the history. So when there's dumps in the system, I can look back. How has this dump been? How many times has this dump been occurring? Is it our top 10 dump? Is it? Now I can focus on what needs to be fixed. And as I said, this data now can be given to all the different groups, so different people can ask questions. Next slide, please. So again, this is actually, we had a month-end problem this month where revenue recognition jobs were running significantly slower. And we started looking in Splunk, and the RHONDOS guys have been great. If they have issues, they will jump on and help you. So they immediately jumped on and saw a couple of things. One, they saw something running on the application server, which looked a little bit strange. The other thing was we saw here the lock time for that month-end job was 4 times more than it had been in the last 2 months. So for me to do this analysis in STO3, you have to go month by month. You have to download. It's a little bit clunky. Here I can do this. Now I can go and analyze it further. The data is all there. The power of the search for me shouldn't be underestimated. The power of the search, having the historical data there, and being able to time slice and zoom in on a particular event that happened. Next slide. So where are we focusing as we've just turned it on? Our primary focus at the moment is the middle layer, where I said we're bringing together some of the application area owners and managers, showing them things that are going on in the system that they may not have known, whether it's performance related or transactional usage. And it's also bringing use cases out where people have said, this is great because I'm doing it on a monthly basis. I'm downloading this data and analyzing it. That's a perfect use case. So it's bringing use cases as well as we're able to monitor the system by meeting regularly. The last bit, the bottom piece is the Sol. We do have Solman, which we've set up technical monitoring. At the moment, that's not our focus. And the top piece, to give overall system health, at the moment we're just extracting SAP data into Splunk. I think the future will be we'll bring in the data center data, the network data. We don't have that at the moment, so we're just focusing on SAP health. Next slide, please. How am I doing on time? Okay. So this is kind of where we are. We went through. We turned it on in June. We let it run. We monitored it. Basis team had a heart attack because the batch jobs were running 24 hours a day under the BTC Splunk ID. There's no impact. We discovered there's no impact to end users, performance. The system can absorb that. So then now, as I said, we've started a cadence of meetings with the application owners to review certain out-of-the-box dashboards and content. And over time, we're looking to replace those with alerts so that we can reduce the meetings. Okay, next slide. So this is one of the use cases that we saw in the demo with Power Connect. So there is a geo dashboard that comes out of the box. We've had historic problems with regional performance issues. So this was kind of interesting to us to be able to see, well, okay, so let's see if there is an issue. If you can go on the next slide. So we turned this on in June. Obviously, the data flowed through and we had one big blob in North America, and we had one big blob in EMEA, and we had one big blob in APAC region. And that was because COVID, everybody was working from home. And it was just showing us the data for the VPN network connections. So again, to show the versatility, we got with Daniel, we got with Matt. They said, right, let's try and connect it to the VPN data. So we had the VPN data in our Splunk environment. Daniel was able to connect that data up. So now we can actually see more regional specific data. You can zoom in on the map on the left. And go to specific locations and see what's happening. So in the past, a user would have a performance problem. They'd raise a ticket. By the time it got to you, could be yesterday that it happened. We'd now do traces. Here with this dashboard, we can go in, pick the time slice that the user was having the problem. We can see, well, is there red all over the place? Is it green? We can zoom in on what that user was doing. So by clicking on the bubble on the map, it now opens up on the right-hand side and shows you the response time by user. I can now click on that. Now the bottom part of the graph, the bottom part of the dashboard starts loading with the stat data for that user, for that time period, for that connection, and we can see more detail what they were doing. And then you could click on the application server on the right-hand side there. If you go to the next slide, and immediately see what's going on the application server health to do with CPU, memory, etc. So it's not going to give you the answer, but it's going to start allowing you to rule things out, like the health of this server looks good. Okay, was it one user? Okay, what's the program? Now you can go with that data again and do more searches, do your own custom searches and drill in further to find out what's going on. So and that's it, I think.
Great, James, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and open it up to the audience for question and answer time again. So go ahead and we can utilize the raise a hand feature in our Zoom like last time, and I'll call on you to ask your question, or you're more than welcome to type your question into the chat and I will go through them that way. Looks like Srini wants to know if we can check the performance response time of a specific SAP transaction.
Yes, you can. So the out-of-the-box dashboard for stat data, you can filter by user and by transaction. And there's also another two dashboards that come, which is most executed transaction and transaction with the highest response time. So we actually have taken those two, created a third chart, which actually puts those two dimensions together and shows you the most executed with the highest response times. Because if the highest response time is something that runs once a month, you may not want to focus on that. So yes, you can, and you can even then take it to the next level.
Great. It looks like we want to know if you can elaborate on the early issues with Basis and Power Connect jobs from Grant.
It was more, I think, from a Basis team perspective, to see the job running 24/7. We had some initial concerns about it, but we immediately talked to the RHONDOS team, and they explained to us that this is normal, and they're running, the processes are running, so they have no impact on end users. And we did our own kind of analysis, and yeah, confirmed this. So.
Thank you for that question and for answering. Do we have any other questions for James today?
Hey, James, it's Matt. I've got a question for you. Where are we taking this technology next? Maybe you can share with the group some of what we're doing around the ICM trace log analysis from a Fiori perspective.
Sure. Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have a Fiori gateway environment, which obviously is not your traditional T-codes programs. And we're working with the RHONDOS team to pull in information from the ICM log, HTTP requests, and the response time to build dashboards that will show us usage and response times for our Fiori Launchpad applications. So that's in the works at the moment.
All right. Looks like we are good to go. James, thank you so much. That was really interesting. We appreciate you sharing with us today.